Quotation from myself, segment 13. Quotation number 161. In a book, when a character has, so to speak, nowhere to go anymore, the author must obviously do something about it. The standard solution to such a problem is to finish off this dead-end character, which is customarily arranged through his/her natural or accidental, even violent death, whichever the writer feels will fit the plot. But in life, it is quite different. In real life, people who have nowhere anymore to go usually go on anyway. Number 162. Everyone wants his share of glory. No one wants his share of shame. Everybody wants to be part of the mighty. Nobody wants to be a part of the weak. All want to play cowboys. They always win. None want to play Indians. They always lose. Let's join the winners. Let's leave the losers. Rejoice with the happy, shun the miserable. All want to survive. None want to perish. Number 163. Labor unions undoubtedly had been and still are playing a positive role in the struggle for the improvement of economic condition of the unionized workers. Yet there is a negative side to the union, one which cannot and should not be overlooked, namely, how they relate to the rest of the working class. Here are some manifestations of this negative side. 1. A labor union benefits only its members. This is its one and only task, and all other union activities lead directly or indirectly to the achievement of this principal goal. 2. Socio-economic and technological condition of the modern production makes it possible only for a small fraction, 15 to 20% of the working class, employed mainly in the leading manufacturing industry, to get unionized. Yet this relatively small group uses its ability, derived from its predominant position in the modern economy, to effectively paralyze production by shutting down the main industry, and thus to wrestle from the entrepreneurs at least some portion of the surplus value, while the rest of the working class is denied any. As a result, though it appears that unions push all wages up, in relative terms, their demands produces disproportionate wage increases for them, while keeping the wages of the non-unionized workers below the otherwise possible level. 3. This wage inequality inevitably creates economical and social division within the working class, and to such a degree that at the advanced stage of this process, the working class could be roughly subdivided into 3 distinct subclasses. The first and the smallest one, sometimes called working aristocracy, represent a unionized worker employed either by the government or by the leading manufacturing industries, and whose wages and other benefits are on a par with that of a lower management. The second group, which can be called the workers' middle class, comprises the skilled and semi-skilled workers who, for different reasons, but mainly because the first group, the working aristocracy, being as protective of its privileged position as its namesake, jealously control its numbers in order to minimize competition within the union for the limited number of jobs, could not get jobs in major industry or in the public sector. As a result, they are employed largely by small and medium-sized businesses in the secondary manufacturing sector, subordinated to the primary one. Most of them are not unionized because it's extremely difficult to organize workers in the industry with low level of concentration and specific working condition of the small enterprise. But even those of them who are unionized, because of the above-mentioned reason, have little clout to achieve any meaningful improvement in their economic condition. The third group is the working poor, perpetually oscillating between unskilled job in a light manufacturing or a service sector at a minimum wage level, always in fear of being replaced by someone even more desperate than they are, and chronic unemployment or welfare. These are the people who live below the so-called poverty line. It should be mentioned in passing that moving up in the working class society from a lower pay and status job to the higher one could be as difficult as the upward mobility in society in general. 4. The unions weaken the working class as a whole by bleeding it of its most skilled, intelligent, educated, and especially able to organize themselves members. 5. The union contribute to the stability of the capitalist system by entering into the private self-serving agreements with their capitalist employers, and in the process becoming totally dependent on the success and perpetuation of this system. Moreover, they are doing it with a complete disregard for the common interests of the rest of the working class, and quite often the end result of the union activities are detrimental to these interests. Thus, in effect, the unions ally themselves with capitalists against their fellow workers. 6. Consequently, the union will support Labor and Socialist Party as long as they could help the union narrow parochial interests. But the union would not hesitate to oppose the very same parties when they feel that their interests are threatened by those party politics, the examples of which are numerous. 7. And finally, the fate of the working people in other countries, especially in the Third World, seldom, if ever, enters into any real consideration of the trade unionists of the West, unless their jobs are threatened by the movement of capital into the low-wage countries. All of the above has helped the union members to carve in their recent years a rather comfortable niche in the poor house, in which the rest of the working class continue to subsist even through the unprecedented in history growth and prosperity of the post-war years. But as their economic situation begins to get progressively worse due to the emergence of the global economy, in which their temporary monopoly on skills and technology is, for all intent and purpose, increasingly becoming the thing of the past, would the unionized workers be able to realize finally that they cannot go on living forever on a paradise island surrounded by the ocean of misery, and that their particular fate is inseparable from universal welfare of all working people? Furthermore, would they be capable of overcoming their natural tendency to be preoccupied exclusively with their own interests and instead use the experience and organizational strength of a union movement to place themselves at the head of the unified working class in the struggle for better life of all working people, regardless of their union affiliation. And, which probably is the most difficult, would they in this struggle be able to sacrifice, if necessary, for the common good, their gains and privileges? The answer to all these questions are not yet clear. On the one hand, as the unions are getting weaker, it seems that changing the attitude toward the rest of working people is in the union's own interest, for the losers are always looking for their allies. But on the other hand, in response to generally worsening situation, the unions can turn even more inward and circle the wagons, desperately trying to preserve the substantial gains made in the post-war boom by concentrating as usual on their narrow defined interests to the exclusion of everybody else and disregarding even more, if it is possible, the plight of the rest of working class, both domestically and abroad. One thing is clear, that at this moment in history, which is far from ending, no matter how much those in power would like us to believe, but on the contrary is at the threshold of fundamental revolutionary change, it is hard to predict the future of anything, including the future of the union movement. Number 164. If nothing can come out of nothing or disappear into nothingness, all which exists now, including us, has existed and will continue to exist, albeit in the infinitely various modification, as long as the universe itself exists. Number 165. What we are mistakenly perceived, sometimes as passion's fire, turns out after all to be the mire of desire. Number 166. To think about immortality in a sense of being remembered by the future generations after one's death is a luxury most of people most of the time can hardly afford to indulge in, for they are constantly preoccupied with much more immediate problems. How, while they are still alive, to get recognition of this fact by attention from their contemporaries, since contrary to solipsism, the theory that nothing but self exists, proof of one's existence here and now lies not in the self, but in others who have to acknowledge this fact. And it is this psychological need to be confirmed by others, and the fear of social non-existence, of being an invisible man, that drives people to do all kinds of foolish things just to get attention, and through it, reassurance that they do exist.